A strong case could be made that 28 Days Later is the greatest zombie movie of all time. Marvin's never seen it, so we made him watch it. Let's see if he agrees or completely disagrees. 28 Days Later is in the pantheon of great zombie films. Again, possibly the best ever because it literally changed the zombie genre forever. Pre-2002, most zombie movies followed that George Romero style of like slow, rotting, just kind of relentlessly shambling along until they become too overwhelming. Yeah. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, they introduced this concept of like rage-infected humans that are fast and violent and feral, and it flipped the genre from sort of like just existential dread to like adrenaline-fueled like panic survival. And it inspired like huge tonal shifts in the genre. Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead in 2004 kind of followed this style. World War Z, Zombieland, The Last of Us, like the list goes on. So 28 Days Later changed the game for every zombie movie that came after it. For that reason and many others that I'm sure we're going to discuss, I think it's probably the best zombie film ever made. Marvin, what'd you think about it your first time watching it?
I enjoyed this movie a lot. I felt that the like atmosphere of the movie was great.
Oh yeah.
Like with the empty London scenes, and the cinematography was fantastic.
Yep.
And like that digital video really enhanced like the whole feel of the movie too.
I was curious if you were going to run into that in any way, because it's actually tough to watch on like a modern TV. It looks like you're watching a YouTube video from like 2008. They used a digital video camera, like it was not a professional. It was like just a what is a
camcorder or some shit?
A consumer grade digital camera from back in the 2000s. Is the Canon XL1, and they were just standard definition, and
that's crazy.
It made the movie look grainy and less polished back then, which was meant they wanted that. They wanted it to look more real and immediate. But now watching it on a modern TV, it doesn't scale well, so it looks even worse than it did back then.
I loved a lot of things about this. I love that they weren't afraid to kill off the main folks throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love so the intro, like this waking up in the hospital thing. So did The Walking Dead steal that from this, or is that just kind of a trope that everyone uses, or do we know if that happened in other zombie movies before?
I would say The Walking Dead stole it from this, because the opening of this movie is probably one of the most iconic openings, like I would say maybe in movie history, not just in horror movies or zombie movies. Like opening up to just seeing like the streets of London being completely empty is insane.
Yeah. I looked up the budget. The budget of this movie was like $8 million.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's a lot or not for the time this came out, like 2002.
No, it's considered like pretty low budget.
Okay, so low budget. So I was curious, like, how did you guys get everything to be so fucking empty for this movie? It was like, it feels like you have to have a higher budget or be able to pull some strings or something. I don't know exactly how it works, but it was good.
What they actually did was they filmed in multiple locations throughout the United Kingdom, and they filmed for like pretty brief periods during like early mornings, and then sometimes they temporarily closed streets so they could capture like some of the more recognizable and like usual busy areas when they were deserted.
Yeah, it's always the monkeys.
It's always the monkeys.
Mm-hmm. Every time.
You can just stop fucking with monkeys. Let them just be.
And it actually is. I was laughing at that a little bit just because their intention was to save the monkeys, and then they ended up killing them. The one guy was like bashing the monkey's head in anyway to try to save his friend. It's like, oh fuck.
Yep. The irony was thick in that open. This is a great zombie flick. Like you said, it's up there as one of the best, if not the best. And Marvin nailed all the high points. It's great cast, great acting, great cinematography, just good story all around. Good atmosphere, the highs and the tension, everything just really well done.
How often before this was there the portrayal of like how humans become more like monsters than the actual monsters? Like, was that like already a pretty common theme in zombies stuff at the time, or?
Yeah, not like this though. I think again, there's another reason why. And that's like my second point that I was going to go to. So that's cool that We're melding here. George A. Romero movies were always like, they were so brilliant because they're not just about zombies. They're more, they're deeper than that. They have like they're political allegories, they're social allegories. They're about like desperation and like the breakdown of civilization and like all that stuff. So it wasn't really anything new. I just think this movie kind of captured it in a way that was new because it really, really, really sells that like society has collapsed. There's that one scene where they're first giving him that little bit of exposition about like what happened. And he's like, what about the government? They're like, there is no government. He's like, there's always a government. What do you mean? There's always like an authority figure to like come in and help. And they're like, no, dude, there isn't.
Nope.
And it's just, it shows how quickly like the breakdown of society like would happen. One of my favorite things about this movie, and I think what makes it so special, is that it's not just a zombie movie. You touched on it a little bit. It's more than just the infection. It's about like people and like grief, survival, loneliness, morality. And like it's all baked into this story that is driven by an infection. They're not really zombies in this movie. They're just rage infected human beings. They're not like dead and reborn like typical zombies are.
They got hit with that Jacob's Ladder fucking vaccine.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the same shit.
But the outbreak in this movie isn't the focus. It's almost just background noise. The story is about emotional survival. Jim wakes up in a world that is already lost, not one that is collapsing, and it creates a different mood. Then you get scenes like, you know, when he goes to see his parents and they're dead, and the note of like, we left you sleeping and now we're sleeping with you. Like, don't wake up. I'm actually getting a little,
that shit was crazy,
choked up thinking about it.
Don't wake up. I was like, wow.
Scenes with Frank and Hannah and showing their bond as father and daughter, and like the quiet moments of like reprieve in the movie where they're like, especially the supermarket scene. I think it's one of the best scenes in the movie where there's just like a brief moment of fun and joy and normalcy. Them sort of out in the field with the horses. Again, the horses.
The horse scene was great. Yeah.
Very similar to the iconic scene from The Last of Us where Ellie sees giraffes for the first time. Oh, I'm gonna get choked up thinking about that too. Fuck. There's a lot of actual like beauty in this movie surrounded by brutality and stuff, and it gives the movie a lot of layers. I would say it's a post-apocalyptic like character study, not just like a horror movie. It like transforms almost like midway through. The whole third act is like completely not a zombie movie at all.
There's only one zombie and he's on a fucking chain. I thought that was pretty smart, by the way. The general guy seeing how long it takes for the zombies to starve to see how long, how long they could go, trying to prepare for some type of future. Yeah, I like the idea too that we don't know for sure that the entire world actually succumbed to this virus, or if it was just the
London,
Europe
England,
quarantined. Yeah, like
well,
we don't know for sure.
So they end up responding to a like a radio call about it's
always a trap,
a safe camp or whatever. And it's the military led by this guy, Major Henry West. This movie basically becomes a political allegory framed around this camp. So it turns out that these military guys, they're just trying to lure people in, specifically women, to just be like sex slaves, essentially.
It shows the dynamic of the human nature. It is that Jekyll and Hyde feel. I mean, humans can just as easily be the monsters, like Marvin said.
I mean, that's like really at the core of what makes a good zombie movie, I think, and really any post-apocalyptic movie. Like, it shows the breakdown of morality itself, like how humans are just sort of like, I wouldn't say immoral people. Like, we're not immoral by nature, I don't think, but it just shows how under the right circumstances, everything breaks down, not just society and government and like institutions, but like your actual psychology.
Well, I mean, it's spoken in basically, if you want to call him, the first act. She tells him, she's like, I wouldn't save you. I would kill you in a heartbeat, which, is a big scene, come to find out later. But she says the only thing that matters is surviving. That's literally all there is, just surviving. Don't give a fuck about anything.
Yeah, and she later changes her framing, and that's like kind of the moral of the story, is that you don't want to lose your humanity in times of great struggle or panic or whatever. But how this movie later functions as a political allegory, it uses like fear as a contagion, like media panic and mass violence, which we see play out in our real lives. In this movie, like the rage is the virus. It spreads instantly, violently. There's no incubation period. There's no warning. I think it's key that the zombies aren't zombies. They're not undead. they're humans, but stripped of empathy, driven by like just blind. Interesting that the movie is considered one of the best zombie movies ever made, but it is not, by the director's own admission, not in fact a zombie movie. I don't know that I agree with him, but
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, I guess they don't reanimate. That's true.
In the traditional sense, it's not a zombie film for sure. The military compound that we are hanging out in the last act of the movie it represents like institutional decay, and it's a callback to the beginning of the movie where he's like, what about the government? What about the police? And they're like, dude, that doesn't exist anymore. And this portion of the movie sort of, really kind of drives that home. Major West sort of represents like the illusion of order, right? He's supposed to be like a savior in a sense. There's that moment when the military shows up and you're like, oh fuck, cool, they're safe. Nope. Like that's I think such a brilliant like turn of events.
You are your last and only line of self-defense. Nobody's coming to save you.
Of course, there's themes of like authoritarianism and women and people as resources and all that good stuff. But really the erosion of power structures and how power structures exploit disasters and things like that. I think those are all like key themes explored in that latter half of the movie. So we asked the question in the beginning, is this the best zombie film of all time? I personally do think it is, just because of its contribution to the genre, its reinvigoration of the genre, the brilliant filmmaking and the soundtrack, as we said, the acting, like everything in this movie, I think is just honestly pretty perfect. I don't really have a bad thing to say about it. I don't know how many zombie movies that you've seen, Marvin, but where would you rank this in your catalog of zombie movies you have seen?
It probably has to go at the top, just the influence that it gave all the other movies and shows.
Is it the best zombie movie ever? I guess we're just talking zombies specifically, or any undead. If it's any undead, then I can't say because the Deadites.
Okay.
But it's certainly up there. One of the greatest. It is the bar for which all good zombie movies are measured. I will give it that. And definitely up top, it would be on the Mount Everest of zombie movies for sure. So
okay,
is it number one? I'm not. I don't know. I wouldn't say, but it's definitely
up
arguable.
There.
It's in the conversation.
Okay. Well, it's got a 7.5 on IMDb. I'm going to bump that up. I'm giving this a perfect 10. I think it's a perfect movie.
I don't think there's anything that I would have changed or anything. I don't really have any gripes with this. So yeah, it's a perfect one.
Now give it a 9.
Wow. This is the first perfect from Dusty, I think.
Nah, it's not.
No.
It's not.
No.
Folks,
Some
Dusty
of the other
won't
make
give
Marvin
10s.
wants.
9 is his perfect,
Yeah.
just so we're aware.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay.
There's
That's
always
big.
room for a little improvement.
Perfects across the board. That is huge.
Pretty sure he gave Beverly Hills Cop a 9.
I did.
Oh,
Among
okay.
some other, I think there's some other ones. I wish we
There
had
are.
had
Jaws,
tracked it.
probably.
That's Dusty's
Yeah.
job. Dusty's got to go through and aggregate all the
I need
ratings.
to. Yeah.
That would be good, actually.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Perfect
I
across
bet
the
I
board.
give the highest average.
No, I think I
I
might.
bet I do.
You think you do? Maybe you do.
I think I do. Because there's some that you guys don't like, and I'm like,
That's true. But there you have it, folks. There's our thoughts on 28 Days Later. There's Marvin's thoughts seeing it for the first time. Is it the best zombie movie of all time? Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think.